welcome. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Or, I might show up at your door. I'm just here to share some creepy stories, so sit back and enjoy. Disclaimer: the content presented in the video is purely for entertainment purposes only. The theories and stories discussed in this video are speculative and are not supported by any evidence or proof. Viewer discretion is advised. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 17, 2025. Researcher: Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject: routine lunar observation and tracking. Something's wrong with the moon. I've been staring at the data for 3 hours now, running and rerunning the calculations, calibrating and recalibrating the equipment. There must be an error somewhere. The alternative is inconceivable. Let me back up. My name is Dr. Eleanor Harker, Ellie to my colleagues, senior astronomer at Blackwood Peak Observatory. We're perched at 9,300 feet in the Colorado Rockies, one of the darkest sky sites in North America. The facility is government-funded, primarily for tracking near-Earth objects and collecting lunar monitoring data. I've been stationed here for 7 years. Tonight started like any other night shift. Clear skies, temperature dropping to 28 degrees Fahrenheit, wind minimal. Perfect observation conditions. I was completing the standard lunar positioning verification, a protocol we perform every 48 hours to ensure our tracking systems maintain proper calibration. The readings were off, not dramatically, a fraction of a degree, barely perceptible. But in astronomical terms, a deviation of even 0.0003 degrees in lunar position is cause for concern. I assumed equipment error and began diagnostics. 3 hours later, I've eliminated every possible mechanical or computational explanation. I've checked our positioning against 3 separate reference databases. I've reinitialized the entire tracking system. I've even gone old school with manual visual reference points. The conclusion is impossible, yet the data is unequivocal. The moon has stopped its orbital movement. Completely. Personal audio log.
Timestamp 3:17 nachts.
Sound of keyboard clicking. Occasional sigh. I can't tell anyone yet. Not without further confirmation. Marcus will be in at dawn. He's the only other person I trust with this. We've worked together for 5 years. He'll approach this methodically, find the flaw in my analysis. Because there has to be a flaw. The moon can't just stop. The gravitational consequences alone would be catastrophic. Tidal patterns worldwide would destabilize within hours. The Earth's rotation could be affected. I'm not even sure how the laws of physics would accommodate such an event. Yet the visual confirmation is undeniable. I've been watching it for hours now. The moon hangs motionless against the reference stars. Not the apparent motionlessness that comes from distance and slow movement, actual verified stasis. Sound of chair rolling, footsteps crossing room. If I'm right, and God, I hope I'm not, this is beyond unprecedented. This defies everything we understand about celestial mechanics. Static crackle. Then a mechanical voice begins broadcasting. This is an emergency alert notification from the National Weather Service. Unusual tidal activity has been reported along the Pacific coast. Residents of coastal areas from Alaska to Southern California are advised to move to higher ground immediately. This is not a test. Repeat, this is not a test. Static fades. Jesus, this is happening already. The tides, they're responding to the moon's stasis. I need to. Sound of phone ringing. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 17, 2025. Follow-up entry to 6:12 a.m. I haven't slept. The call was from Director West. Apparently, our observatory isn't the only one that noticed the lunar anomaly. There's an emergency conference call in 20 minutes with NASA, the National Science Foundation, and several military officials. Before the call, I need to document what else I've observed in the past few hours. The moon's visible face appears unchanged to the naked eye, but enhanced imaging shows subtle alterations in the pattern of Maria, the dark plains. The configurations of several key formations, particularly Mare Crisium and Mare Tranquillitatis, seem shifted by approximately 1.7 degrees. This is impossible without physical restructuring of the lunar surface. Spectrographic analysis indicates a 0.08% increase in reflected light intensity across all wavelengths, most notably in the near-infrared spectrum. The emergency alert system has broadcast 3 more warnings about coastal flooding. Internet connectivity has become intermittent, suggesting high emergency traffic or potential infrastructure impacts. Most disturbing, I've detected what appears to be a rhythmic fluctuation in the lunar albedo, a pulsing in the reflected light that occurs at precisely 72-second intervals. This pattern is too regular to be a natural phenomenon. I keep returning to the telescope, staring at that familiar silver disk suspended against the stars. It's like looking at a photograph rather than a celestial body, a frozen image where there should be motion. The longer I look, the more I feel a creeping sensation along my spine, a primitive instinct warning of wrongness. Marcus should have arrived by now. The sun is rising, painting the snow-capped peaks around the observatory with pale gold light. But the moon remains visible, hanging impossibly still in the brightening sky. Handwritten addition, Marcus just called. He's been detained at the security checkpoint 2 miles down the mountain. Military personnel have established a perimeter around the observatory. No one in or out without clearance. What the hell is happening? Second handwritten edition. The emergency alert system just broadcast again. Different this time. Attention. By order of the Department of Defense, all astronomical research facilities are temporarily under federal jurisdiction. Share no data or observations with unauthorized personnel. Violation of this order constitutes a federal offense under the National Security Act. Stand by for military liaison arrival. They're coming here. They know something, or they're as terrified as I am. Wait, there's movement at the entrance gate. A convoy of black SUVs winding up the access road. No 5 vehicles. I need to hide these notes. If my calculations are correct, if the moon has truly stopped moving, we're facing something beyond conventional science. Something that might redefine our understanding of the cosmos, of reality itself. And suddenly, I'm not sure I want to know why. Final handwritten note, barely legible. They're here. Heavy footsteps in the corridor. A woman's voice giving orders. And the moon, oh God, I just checked one more time. The surface patterns are definitely changing. The face that has watched humanity for thousands of years is rearranging itself. It's not just that the moon has stopped moving. It's turning to look at us. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 17, 2025. Researcher: Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject: Official response to lunar anomaly. It's been 16 hours since my initial observation. The moon remains frozen in the sky, defying every law of physics we've established. The world is starting to notice. Major Dana Collins arrived with a team of 8 military personnel at 0730 hours. Unlike the typical bureaucratic response I expected, she was surprisingly forthright. They know exactly what we're dealing with. The lunar stasis is confirmed by every major observatory worldwide. Dr. Harker, she said, her voice steady but her eyes betraying a deeper concern. Your facility's proximity to NORAD makes it an ideal forward observation post. We need your expertise on the ground. What she didn't say was whether they understand why this is happening. I suspect they don't. Marcus finally cleared security at noon. The relief of seeing a friendly face was overwhelming. He looked haggard, like he hadn't slept either. The coastal flooding is worse than they're saying on the news, he whispered when we had a moment alone. My sister in San Francisco said the water came in 2 miles past the normal high tide mark. It didn't recede. The implications are staggering. If the moon has truly stopped orbiting, Earth's oceans are responding to a fixed gravitational pull rather than the rhythmic cycle we've evolved with. The water is literally piling up on the side facing the moon. And if the moon stays fixed, that water will continue to accumulate. Personal audio log. Timestamp: 11:42 p.m. Low whisper. Occasional pauses as if checking for listeners. Director West is hiding something. When Major Collins requested access to the secure server room, which houses our historical lunar observation data, he became visibly agitated. I overheard fragments of their conversation. West, that research was deemed classified 20 years ago. Collins, classifications change when the moon stops moving. Dr. West, you don't understand what you're asking for. Some things were buried for a reason. What research? What could possibly have predicted this? West has only been director here for 3 years. Whatever he's referring to predates his tenure, but he knows about it. Sound of emergency alert system activating. This is a worldwide emergency alert. Severe flooding continues along all Pacific coastal regions. New reports of significant tidal abnormalities now confirmed in the Atlantic Basin. All citizens within 50 miles of any coastline are advised to evacuate immediately to designated inland shelters. Further instructions will follow as loud static, then silence. That's the 4th alert today, but the first to cut off mid-broadcast. Communications have been deteriorating globally. Cell service is spotty. The internet connects only intermittently. We're increasingly isolated up here, but we have the best view of what's happening. Sound of papers shuffling. I've been analyzing the enhanced imagery of the lunar surface. The Maria patterns have definitely shifted since yesterday. It's as if the dark regions are flowing, reconfiguring themselves. Against all logic, the moon appears to be reshaping itself while remaining stationary in space. Major Collins has established a direct satellite uplink to transmit our observations to whatever command center is coordinating the response. But there's a significant delay between transmission and acknowledgement. Almost as if our data is being filtered. Marcus thinks I'm becoming paranoid. Maybe I am. Sleep deprivation does that, but I can't shake the feeling that we're not being told everything. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 18, 2025. Subject: Geophysical Consequences and Pattern Analysis. Dawn broke an hour ago, but the moon remains clearly visible, a pale ghost in the morning sky. Its position remains fixed relative to Earth, not the stars. This suggests whatever force halted its orbit has also locked it rotationally to our planet. Major Collins has requisitioned our laboratory's quantum computing resources. She arrived this morning with 3 analysts in civilian clothing who refused to identify their agency affiliation. They've been running simulations non-stop, occasionally emerging with expressions that do nothing to inspire confidence. The worldwide situation deteriorates by the hour. Coastal flooding has affected approximately 40% of the world's population centers. The water simply doesn't retreat. Seismic activity has increased 600% globally. The Earth's crust is responding to the static gravitational pull. Weather patterns are showing unprecedented disruption. The jet stream has developed anomalous fluctuations that meteorologists cannot model or predict. Perhaps most concerning, Earth's rotation appears to be slowing incrementally. At current rates, we'll experience a measurable extension of day length within a week. I finally confronted Director West about the classified research Major Collins mentioned. His response was troubling. There were anomalies before, he said, his voice barely audible. In 1978, just for 47 minutes, nobody outside the highest clearance levels knew. The public explanation was a minor equipment malfunction across multiple tracking stations. What happened? I asked. His eyes met mine, hollow with fear. It corrected itself. But afterward, 3 researchers working on the analysis committed suicide within a month. Their notes mentioned hearing voices from the moon. Before I could press him further, one of Major Collins's analysts interrupted us. Apparently, they've detected a pattern in the reorganization of the lunar Maria, a complex, geometric progression that suggests intentional design rather than natural processes. Something is drawing on the moon's surface. Something with purpose. Personal audio log. Timestamp: 10:17 p.m. Voice tired, slightly slurred from exhaustion. Marcus made a discovery today that I'm still processing. Using our secondary radio telescope array, he detected low-frequency emissions coming from the lunar surface. Not radio signals in the conventional sense, something more akin to vibrations propagating through space-time itself. When run through acoustic conversion, they produce a sound like, I don't even know how to describe it, like a choir singing in an impossible key, notes that shouldn't exist in our understanding of music. Major Collins immediately classified Marcus's findings and confiscated the original recordings. But not before I made a copy. Sound of electronic device being activated, then an otherworldly humming/singing that modulates unnaturally, causing audio distortion in the recording itself. I've been listening to this for hours. There's structure here.
Intention.
Communication. The moon isn't just an object that stopped moving. It's an entity that's waking up. Sudden loud knocking. Someone's at my door. I need to. Recording ends abruptly. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 19, 2025. Researcher: Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject: Earth rotational anomalies and historical precedent. It was Marcus at my door last night. He looked terrified. You need to see this, he said, thrusting a tablet into my hands. It displayed a classified document he'd managed to access through Director West's credentials, while the director was meeting with Major Collins's team. The document was dated March 1978, exactly as West had mentioned, but it wasn't the only incident. There were records of 5 previous occurrences: 1940, 1887, 1732, 1523, and one estimated at approximately 3000 BCE based on geological evidence and ancient astronomical records. Each time, the same pattern. The moon stopped for a period ranging from minutes to hours, followed by gravitational anomalies, then resumed its normal orbit. Each time, the event was either unrecorded by the general population in earlier eras or deliberately concealed in modern times. But this time is different. We're approaching 72 hours of lunar stasis, far longer than any previously documented event. And now, Earth's rotation is measurably decelerating. We should be experiencing 24-hour days. Current measurements indicate we're at 24.16 hours and slowing approximately 0.04 hours per day. If this trend continues linearly, we'll reach a 25-hour day within a week. The implications for global systems are catastrophic. Everything from agriculture to telecommunications depends on our stable day-night cycle. GPS satellites are already showing significant positioning errors. Even more concerning, the document Marcus found contained references to responsive lunar morphology during the 1940 and 1978 events, exactly what we're observing now with the shifting Maria patterns. Personal audio log. Timestamp: 2:38 p.m. Sound of wind howling outside. The weather has turned violent. Winds exceeding 70 miles per hour are battering the observatory. The meteorologists say it's impossible. There's no front that should be generating these conditions. It's as if the atmosphere itself is responding to the disruption in Earth's rotation. I've been studying the historical documentation. Each previous lunar stasis event coincided with significant shifts in human civilization. 3000 BCE, emergence of the first major urban centers and early writing systems. 1523 CE, height of the European Renaissance and global exploration. 1732, dawn of the Industrial Revolution. 1887, beginning of modern electrical systems and theoretical physics. 1940, nuclear physics breakthrough and dawn of the computer age. 1978, early genetic engineering and quantum computing concepts. It's as if something is monitoring our progress, taking measurements at critical junctures in our development. The 72-second pulse in the lunar albedo that I first detected has changed frequency. It's now at precisely 58.3 seconds. The pattern is becoming more complex, almost like a language constructed of light. Emergency alert system activates. This is a global emergency broadcast. Earth's rotation has been compromised. All citizens are advised that day and night cycles will experience progressive elongation. Conserve resources accordingly. Satellite communications may be disrupted. Stand by for further instructions from local authorities. Alert ends. They're finally acknowledging it publicly. The panic will be immeasurable. 7 billion people just learned that the most fundamental constant in human experience, the reliable cycle of day and night, can no longer be trusted. I wonder how they'll react when they learn it's happened before. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 20th, 2025. Subject: Lunar surface reconfiguration and signal analysis. The Maria patterns on the lunar surface have completed their initial reconfiguration. What has emerged is undeniably deliberate. A vast geometric structure spanning approximately 780 kilometers across the visible face. The pattern resembles nothing in human mathematical systems but exhibits principles of complex fractal geometry with recursive elements that seem to fold in on themselves in impossible ways. Major Collins has brought in Dr. Sophia Nazari, a cryptographer specializing in non-human communication systems. Her background is in theoretical xenolinguistics, a field I didn't realize had practical applications until now. Whatever created this pattern understands mathematics in ways we don't, she explained after her initial analysis. It's not just communicating. It's restructuring reality according to principles we can barely comprehend. When I asked what she meant by whatever created this, she simply stared at the moon through our main telescope for a long moment before responding, "Dr. Harker, the moon has never been what we thought it was." Before she could elaborate, Director West interrupted with news that has shaken me to my core. The historical documents contain translations of ancient Sumerian tablets describing the arrival of the watchful eye in the sky and how it sleeps but does not sleep, moves but does not move. The tablets describe the moon not as a natural satellite but as an artificial construct, an observational platform placed in orbit around Earth approximately 200,000 years ago. I reject this interpretation. It contradicts everything we know about lunar geology and solar system formation. Yet I cannot dismiss the timing of these incidents throughout human history, nor the deliberate nature of the patterns now etched across the lunar surface. Personal audio log. Timestamp: 11:52 p.m. Voice hushed, recording made under blankets. Marcus and I snuck into the observatory dome after everyone else retired for the night. We needed to see it for ourselves without filters or processing. Just the raw image of what the moon has become. It was looking at us. I know how that sounds, but there's no other way to describe it. The reconfigured Maria now form what unmistakably resembles an enormous aperture, like a pupil surrounded by an iris of dark basaltic plane. And as we watched, the pupil contracted slightly, adjusting just as an organic eye would when focusing. Marcus saw it too. He whispered, "It's not that the moon stopped moving, Ellie. It's that it's no longer pretending to move. I can't sleep. None of us can." Even those who haven't seen what Marcus and I saw seem affected by a creeping unease that transcends normal fear. It's as if some primitive part of our brains recognizes a predator's gaze. The wind outside has stopped completely. The air feels unnaturally still, charged with potential. Earth's rotation continues to decelerate. We're now at 24.27 hours per day. And there's something else. The classified documents mentioned a phenomenon called lunar resonance that affected certain individuals during previous stasis events. They reported dreams of standing on a vast plain under an empty sky, hearing whispers in an impossible language. I had that dream last night. I didn't mention it to anyone. Tonight, I heard Major Collins crying in her quarters. Through the thin walls, I could hear her repeating the same phrase over and over. "It chose now because we're ready. It chose now because we're ready. What are we ready for?" Recording ends with sound of faint, rhythmic humming coming from outside. The same pattern as the lunar emissions, but closer. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 21st, 2025. Researcher: Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject: military protocol implementation, and environmental anomalies. The observatory is no longer a scientific facility. It's a military installation. At 0500 hours, 3 transport helicopters arrived carrying additional personnel and equipment. Major Collins now has a team of 22 under her command, a mix of military specialists and civilian scientists with security clearances I didn't know existed. This facility is now designated Lunar Observation Post-Alpha, she announced during a mandatory briefing. All communications are restricted to approved channels. Any attempt to share information with unauthorized parties will be treated as treason under the Homeland Security Act of 2042. 2042? That's 17 years in the future. When I pointed this out, she simply stared at me and continued speaking. The equipment they've brought is unlike anything I've seen before. Quantum entanglement communicators that reportedly maintain stable connections despite the electromagnetic disturbances we're experiencing, and imaging technology that can supposedly penetrate the lunar surface to a depth of 20 kilometers. Most concerning is the weapon system they've installed on the observatory roof, a directed energy platform they're calling Artemis. Its stated purpose is defensive, but against what, they won't say. Earth's rotation continues to decelerate. We're now at 24.38 hours per day. The meteorological consequences are becoming severe. Global wind patterns are destabilizing as the Coriolis effect weakens. Hurricane-force storms have developed in regions that have never experienced such weather. And throughout all this, the moon watches. Personal audio log. Timestamp 3:17 p.m. Sound of heavy rain and distant thunder. Marcus pulled me aside after lunch. He's been assigned to monitor local wildlife behavior. Seemingly a trivial task given the cosmic scale of what we're facing, but his findings are disturbing. The animals know, he whispered. They've known from the beginning. He showed me his observation logs. Every mammalian species within our monitoring range has exhibited dramatic behavioral changes. Nocturnal animals no longer follow sleep cycles. Migratory birds have abandoned established patterns. Most telling, predator and prey species have been observed in close proximity without typical interaction behaviors. It's like they're waiting, Marcus said. Like they recognize something we don't. But it was his observations of invertebrate behavior that truly chilled me. Insect swarms throughout the region have begun forming geometric patterns identical to those appearing on the lunar surface. Ant colonies have abandoned normal tunneling behaviors to create structures that, when viewed from above, mimic the transformed Maria patterns, as if something is rewriting their instinctual behaviors, reprogramming them. Major Collins overheard part of our conversation. Instead of reprimanding us for unauthorized information sharing, she simply said, Dr. Chen's observations align with global reports. The repatterning is spreading through biological systems worldwide. Repatterning, that's the term they're using, as if the restructuring of the lunar surface is just the visible manifestation of a deeper process. Emergency alert system activates. Attention. The President of the United States will address the nation in 30 minutes. All citizens are required to participate in this mandatory broadcast. Emergency power reserves will be allocated to communication networks during this period. Stand by for critical information. Alert ends. They're going to tell everyone. Or at least they're going to tell them something. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 21st, 2025. Addendum: Presidential Address Analysis. The President's address was 17 minutes long. The content can be summarized as follows. Acknowledgement of the lunar stasis as an unprecedented astronomical phenomenon. Confirmation of the Earth's rotational deceleration as a temporary consequence. Assurances that the world's leading scientists and military experts are working in coordination. Introduction of emergency measures including rationing, restricted travel, and communication protocols. A call for calm and unity in the face of what was termed a cosmic event beyond human control. What was notably absent was any mention of the lunar surface reconfiguration, the historical precedents, or the biological repatterning observed globally. The address was clearly designed to acknowledge what can no longer be hidden while concealing what they believe would cause panic. Major Collins watched the broadcast with us, her expression unreadable. When it concluded, she immediately ordered all observatory personnel to the main conference room for a classified briefing. The information shared in that briefing exceeds my security clearance to record here, but I can note that the Artemis system was activated for the first time, aimed directly at the lunar surface. Not firing, just establishing acquisition lock. According to the technical specialist, they're preparing for something. Personal audio log. Timestamp: 11:42 p.m. Voice trembling slightly. Occasional pauses to control breathing. I had the dream again. More vivid this time. I stood on the lunar surface, but it wasn't barren or lifeless. The regolith beneath my feet pulsed with faint luminescence, responding to my presence. The horizon curved too sharply, as if the moon were much smaller than it should be. Above me hung the earth, beautiful and blue, but it was wrong somehow. Continents in impossible configurations, oceans where there should be land, and a voice, not heard with ears but felt through the vibrating surface beneath me, saying words I couldn't comprehend but somehow understood. The calibration approaches completion. I woke gasping, my sheets soaked with sweat, to find Major Collins standing in my doorway. She didn't explain how she'd entered my locked room. She simply said, "You've been contacted." Not a question, a statement. "Others have had the dream too," she continued. "It's selecting individuals, establishing connections." "For what purpose?" I asked. Her answer haunts me. "The moon isn't a satellite, Dr. Harker. It's an interface. And after 50,000 years of observation, whatever exists on the other side has determined we're ready for contact." Before I could question her further, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Marcus burst into the hallway from his quarters, wild-eyed. "The insects," he shouted over the alarm. "They're congregating. Millions of them, every species, forming a landing zone." Major Collins didn't seem surprised. She simply checked her watch and said, "Right on schedule. The facility has been placed under total lockdown. Artemis is fully powered, its targeting systems active. Military personnel have distributed weapons to all security teams. Outside my window, I can see them. A living carpet of insects covering the ground in perfect concentric circles, their bodies forming the same eye-like pattern now emblazoned on the lunar surface. At the center of the pattern is an empty space approximately 20 meters in diameter. Something is coming, and I have the terrible certainty that I've been chosen to meet it." Recording ends with sound of alarms continuing, followed by a high-pitched tone that distorts the audio quality before abruptly cutting off. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 23, 2025. Researcher: Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject: Hidden data recovery and escalating global phenomena. 3 days since full military occupation of the observatory. Time measurement has become increasingly problematic as Earth's rotation continues to decelerate. We're now at approximately 25.2 hours per day. Circadian rhythms are collapsing. Most personnel report severe sleep disruption, including persistent lunar dreaming. The landing zone remains active but unchanged. The insect congregation maintains perfect geometric formation despite wind and precipitation. Military personnel have established a perimeter, but maintain distance. Major Collins has forbidden any disruption of the pattern. "We don't fully understand the communication network," she explained. "Interference could have unpredictable consequences. Communication with external facilities remains intermittent. Global networks are failing as satellites lose synchronization with Earth's altered rotation. The quantum entanglement communicators function but are restricted to military use only. This morning, I discovered why Drive West has been conspicuously absent from briefings. While searching the observatory's secure archives for historical lunar observation data, I found an unauthorized terminal active in the basement storage facility. The screen displayed a direct uplink to lunar surface monitoring equipment, equipment not included in our official inventory. The data stream showed thermal imaging of the Maria regions where the new patterns have emerged, revealing subsurface temperature increases of 27 degrees Celsius since the moon's rotation ceased. Drive West emerged from between storage units, clearly startled by my presence. "You shouldn't be here, Eleanor," he said, his voice strangely calm despite being discovered. "This data is classified Umbra level." When I confronted him about hiding critical information, his response chilled me. "I'm not hiding it, I'm protecting it. There are things mankind isn't prepared to know." Before I could question him further, he received a call on a communication device I didn't recognize. Not standard military issue. His expression changed as he listened. Then he looked at me with something like pity. "It's happening faster than we projected," he said, disconnecting. The president's address was meant to buy us time, but the tidal forces are accelerating beyond our models. He hesitated, then made a decision. Typing rapidly, he transferred files to my research tablet. 27 years ago, we detected the first subharmonic resonance patterns in lunar seismic readings. Patterns too regular to be natural. The Blackwood Peak facility wasn't built to study astronomical phenomena. It was built to monitor what we believed was awakening inside the moon. The files contained decades of suppressed research, including information about a classified NASA mission in 2019 that discovered artificial structures buried beneath the Oceanus Procellarum. Structures estimated to be over 100,000 years old. "The moon didn't stop," Drive West whispered. "It completed its cycle." Personal audio log. Timestamp: 2:37 p.m. Background noise of emergency alerts sounding intermittently. The emergency broadcast system hasn't stopped for the past hour. Alerts cycling through all channels, each more dire than the last. Severe tidal anomalies reported along all coastal regions. Inland evacuation mandatory to minimum 100 miles from shoreline. Electromagnetic disturbances affecting power grid stability. Nationwide rolling blackouts imminent. Conserve power and prepare for extended outages. Atmospheric pressure fluctuations detected. Respiratory distress warnings issued for vulnerable populations. I've been reviewing the files Drive West provided. The data is overwhelming, but certain patterns are clear. The moon has exhibited subtle changes throughout recorded history, corresponding with major shifts in human civilization. As if it's been monitoring us, measuring our development. The most disturbing document was a translated tablet from an unknown pre-Sumerian civilization, recovered from an archaeological site in modern-day Iraq. The partial translation reads, "When the eye in the night sky turns fully upon us, the watchers will determine if the seed they planted has borne worthy fruit. The waters will rise, the earth will tremble, and judgment will come." Major Collins found me in the data center. I expected her to confiscate the files, but instead she pulled up a chair. "How much has West told you?" she asked. "Enough to know this isn't the first time the moon has stopped," I answered. She nodded slowly. "The geological record shows extinction-level events occurring approximately every 100,000 years. Perfect periodicity, which is statistically impossible for natural disasters. We've identified 5 previous occurrences. And human civilization?" I asked. "Appears to have been reset each time, with subtle genetic modifications appearing in the fossil record afterward. The implication is staggering. Human evolution, guided by periodic interventions from whatever controls the moon. Is that why Artemis was installed?" I asked. "You're planning to attack the moon?" Her laugh was hollow. "Artemis isn't a weapon, Dr. Harker. It's a receiver, named after the goddess of the moon for a reason." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "We've been receiving fragmentary transmissions since the moon stopped rotating. Mathematical sequences primarily. But last night we received something else. A request for a specific individual." She looked directly at me. "You, Dr. Harker, by name." Sound of emergency alert interrupting. "Attention. Gravitational anomalies detected in all major urban centers. Mass congregation events reported nationwide. Citizens are ordered to remain indoors and avoid all large gatherings. Military enforcement of curfew is authorized effective immediately. Alert ends. Collins' communication device activated. She listened, her expression darkening. "It's happening globally now," she said after disconnecting. "People gathering in geometric formations identical to the insect patterns. Millions of them moving as if choreographed, but each individual reports acting of their own will. They're all facing the moon." Marcus burst into the room, out of breath. "Ellie, you need to see this. The pattern on the lunar surface. It's changing." Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 23, 2025. Researcher: Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject: Lunar surface alteration and revelation. The transformed mare regions have begun to emit light, a soft blue phosphorescence visible even to the naked eye. Telescope imagery reveals the illumination originates from beneath the surface, as if something massive is activating. Drive West finally revealed the true purpose of his secret monitoring station. The thermal readings weren't measuring heat, they were measuring energy accumulation. The moon is charging like a battery. The ancients called it the Eye of Heaven for a reason, West explained, showing me imagery from the hidden monitoring system. The patterns aren't random. They form a complex optical structure like a massive compound eye. It's been watching us for millennia. The data he's been collecting suggests the moon is not a natural satellite, but an artificial construct with a thin outer shell of lunar material concealing something vast and ancient within. The stopping of its rotation appears to be the final stage in some long-dormant activation sequence. Most disturbing is West's theory about the purpose of this activation. "The moon isn't just observing us," he explained. "It's evaluating us. Every civilization that reaches a certain technological threshold triggers this assessment cycle." I asked the obvious question, "What happens after the assessment?" His answer was interrupted by a facility-wide power fluctuation. Emergency systems engaged, and all observatory screens simultaneously displayed the same image. A perfect representation of Earth as seen from space, but with landmasses configured as they would have appeared 100,000 years ago. Below this image appeared a single line of text in a script none of us recognized. Yet all could somehow read, "The calibration is complete. Preparation for reconfiguration commences." Major Collins immediately ordered all personnel to the observatory's main dome. As we gathered, the quantum entanglement communicator activated without human input. A voice, artificially modulated to approximate human speech patterns, addressed us. "Evaluation parameters have been analyzed. Biological and technological development indices have been measured. Social cooperation metrics have been calculated. This seeding cycle has produced suboptimal results. Reconfiguration will commence in 72 hours. Marcus grabbed my arm, his face pale. "Seeding cycle? Reconfiguration? What does that mean?" Drive West answered, his voice oddly calm. "It means we failed the test. Major Collins' team tried to establish communication through the quantum device, but received no response. Instead, every electronic device in the facility synchronized to display a countdown timer. 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 47 seconds. 71 hours, 59 minutes, and 46 seconds. The implications are beyond horrifying. If West's theory is correct, if previous civilizations have been reconfigured after failing similar evaluations, then humanity as we know it has less than 3 days before. What? Extinction? Modification? Something beyond our comprehension? I've retreated to my quarters to record this log while I still can. Outside my window, the insect pattern has begun to glow with the same phosphorescence now emanating from the lunar surface. Above it all, the moon hangs motionless in the sky, the great eye, fully opened at last, its gaze fixed upon our world. And somewhere, deep beneath its ancient surface, something is waking up to reshape us. End of log entry. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 24, 2025. Researcher: Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject: signal reception, and global deterioration. Countdown: 58 hours, 17 minutes, and 22 seconds. Sleep has become impossible. The few who manage to lose consciousness report identical dreams, standing on the lunar surface as something massive shifts beneath their feet. They wake screaming about eyes opening in the void. Earth's rotational deceleration continues to accelerate. We're now experiencing 26.1-hour days. The environmental consequences have become catastrophic. Magnetic field fluctuations have disrupted migratory bird patterns. Entire flocks fall from the sky like rain. Ocean currents are destabilizing, triggering massive temperature anomalies in major bodies of water. The Pacific has risen 3.7 degrees Celsius in 24 hours. At 0400 hours, Artemis detected a targeted signal emanating from the center of the illuminated lunar pattern. Unlike previous mathematical sequences, this transmission contained complex audio waveforms, sounds unlike anything in our acoustic databases, yet structured in ways suggesting language. Drive West's face went pale when the signal analysis completed. "It's older than human language," he whispered, "but the mathematical structure is identical to the pre-Sumerian tablet fragments." Major Collins immediately ordered the transmission isolated on a closed system and brought in a linguistic specialist, Dr. Abigail Reeves, apparently stationed at the facility for months without my knowledge. Her expertise, I've learned, is not in modern languages but in theoretical xenolinguistics. "We've been preparing for this," Collins admitted when I questioned her. "The lunar cycle was predicted to complete this year, though we didn't anticipate the global effects would progress so rapidly." As Dr. Reeves worked to decode the transmission, emergency alerts continued without interruption. "Attention! Gravitational anomalies have reached critical levels. Structural failures reported in all major cities. Evacuate buildings taller than 3 stories immediately. Global meteorological warning. Atmospheric pressure waves detected. Severe weather events forming in all climate zones. Seek underground shelter where available. Presidential Directive 47B now in effect. All federal emergency resources deployed. Martial law declared nationwide." The alerts grew increasingly desperate, then suddenly ceased altogether at 0900 hours. The silence was somehow more terrifying than the constant warnings. Personal audio log.
Timestamp 11:23 Uhr morgens.
Sound of distant helicopters and occasional tremors. Marcus found me on the observation deck, watching military aircraft circling the insect congregation. The living pattern has expanded to cover nearly a square kilometer, still centered on that empty space. The landing zone, as personnel have taken to calling it. "They're not just insects anymore," Marcus reported, his voice barely steady. "Mammals have joined the formation. Deer, wolves, bears. Natural enemies standing shoulder to shoulder in the pattern. And the birds that survived the magnetic disruption have formed concentric circles above it all." He hesitated before continuing. "Ellie, there are people walking up the mountain. Hundreds of them. Moving in perfect unison like they're being controlled." I didn't respond immediately. The truth is, I felt the pull myself. A gentle but persistent urge to join the gathering below. To become part of something vast and terrible and magnificent. "It's calling us," I finally admitted. "Whatever's in the moon. It's reaching out through every living organism capable of receiving its signal." The insects were just the beginning. Marcus grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at him instead of the hypnotic pattern below. "Fight it, Ellie. We need you coherent. Dr. Reeves is close to deciphering the transmission, and she's asking for you specifically." In the linguistics lab, Dr. Reeves had transformed the lunar transmission into visual patterns, waveforms displayed across multiple screens. She looked exhausted, her hands shaking as she adjusted parameters. "The structure is fractal," she explained without preamble. "Each segment contains the whole like a holographic encoding. We've never seen anything like it. One transmission containing potentially infinite information." She pointed to a rhythmic pattern pulsing through the waveforms. "This is the identifier code. It repeats your name, Dr. Harker, in the mathematical equivalent of the signal's base language. It's asking for you specifically. Why me? I asked, the question that's been haunting me since Collins first revealed I'd been chosen. Drive West entered silently, carrying an old file box marked Genetic Survey, Blackwood Region, Classified. Because you're one of them, he said simply, placing the box on the table. Or at least part of you is. Inside were decades of medical data, blood work, genetic tests, brain scans, all bearing my family name. My parents, my grandparents, me. Your family has lived in this region for 9 generations, West explained. Each generation monitored by this facility. Your genetic markers contain sequences we've only found in one other place. He paused, looking directly at me. Trace elements of lunar regolith returned by Apollo missions. The implication struck me like a physical blow. You're saying I'm, what? Part alien. I'm saying humanity has been guided for thousands of years, West replied. Selective breeding programs across multiple civilizations. Genetic markers inserted into bloodlines that made them slightly more receptive to certain frequencies. Your family carries more of these markers than any other documented lineage. You've been studying my family for generations? The betrayal cut deep. Why wasn't I told? Would you have believed us? Collins asked from the doorway. That you were part of the longest-running scientific observation in human history? That the moon itself had marked your bloodline? Before I could respond, Dr. Reeves shouted from her workstation. We've got it. Translation parameters aligned. The room speakers crackled to life, playing a processed version of the lunar transmission. The voice was synthetic, emotionless, yet somehow ancient beyond comprehension. Observer Harker, your genetic profile has been certified as reception capable. You will serve as witness to the reconfiguration. Approach the designated interface point for direct communication. The message repeated 3 times, then shifted to a series of coordinates, the exact center of the gathering pattern below our facility. They want me to go down there, I whispered. To the landing zone. Collins' face hardened. Absolutely not. Whatever's happening, we can't risk. Her words were cut off as every electronic system in the facility simultaneously activated. Screens, speakers, lights, all projecting the same message. Compliance is not optional. The calibration cycle completes in 56 hours. Observer Harker will witness the assessment results or reconfiguration will proceed without preservation protocols. Drive West paled. Preservation protocols. They're offering to spare something. A violent tremor shook the facility, knocking equipment from tables and causing ceiling panels to crash down. The structural integrity alerts blared throughout the complex. The tectonic disruption is accelerating, Marcus shouted over the alarms. Whatever they're planning, it's already affecting Earth's core. Major Collins made a decision. Dr. Harker, this appears to be a negotiation opening. If there's any chance of mitigating what's coming, another, stronger tremor cut her off, cracking the reinforced windows overlooking the valley. Through the fractured glass, I could see the gathered mass of insects, animals, and humans below pulsing with blue light in perfect synchronization with the lunar glow. As the tremor subsided, the facility's emergency systems broadcasted a new alert, this one from what remained of global monitoring networks. Global Emergency Declaration. Extreme gravitational anomalies detected worldwide. Moon's orbital position shifting. Catastrophic tidal events in progress. This is not a drill. All citizens seek highest available ground immediately. May God have mercy on us all. The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving only static. In that moment of silence, I made my decision. I'll go, I said quietly. I'll be their witness. Marcus grabbed my arm. Ellie, it's suicide. We don't know what they want. I looked at the countdown timer, now synchronized across every display in the facility. 55 hours, 42 minutes, and 17 seconds and counting. We don't have a choice, I replied. The reconfiguration is happening regardless. At least this way we might save something. Collins nodded grimly. I'll prepare an escort team. No, I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. The message was clear. Just me. As I turned to leave, Drive West caught my arm. Eleanor, if you're going down there, if you're really going to make contact, there's something else you should know. His voice dropped to a whisper. The pre-Sumerian texts mentioned the witness. They said the witness would become the template. Template for what? I asked. His answer chilled me to my core. For whatever version of humanity they decide to preserve. End of log entry. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 25th, 2025. Researcher: Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject: Interface Point Approach and Systemic Breakdown. Countdown: 38 hours, 3 minutes, and 51 seconds. The journey to the interface point was surprisingly easy. Too easy. The military personnel who had been maintaining a perimeter around the gathering parted wordlessly as I approached, their eyes unfocused as if in a trance. Within their ranks, I recognized faces from nearby towns, ordinary people now standing in perfect geometric formation, swaying slightly in unison. Major Collins insisted on accompanying me to the edge of the formation despite my objections. Protocol demands observation, she said, but I could see genuine concern beneath her professional exterior. Whatever happens, someone needs to document it. The gathered masses, human, animal, insect, maintained their concentric pattern but created a perfect corridor as I approached, a pathway leading directly to the empty center. The blue luminescence pulsed through them in waves, each organism momentarily glowing as the energy passed through its body. They're networked, Collins whispered, her scientific detachment faltering. A single distributed organism. At the corridor's entrance, she handed me a specialized recording device. Full-spectrum audio and visual capture, quantum entangled with our systems at base. Whatever you experience, we'll receive it in real time. She hesitated, then added, "Come back to us, Dr. Harker." My steps seemed to echo unnaturally as I walked the corridor of living bodies. The air grew charged, similar to the feeling before a lightning strike, but continuous, building. My skin tingled, and I could taste metal on my tongue. The empty center, the interface point, was a perfect circle approximately 20 meters in diameter. The ground within this circle appeared scorched. Ancient symbols burned into the soil in patterns matching those now visible on the lunar surface. As I reached the center, all electronic equipment failed simultaneously. Watches, cameras, Collins' specialized recorder. But most disturbing was the sudden absolute silence. The wind stopped. Birds froze in mid-flight. Even the subtle sounds of breathing from thousands of gathered organisms ceased, as if time itself had paused. Only I remained mobile, standing at the center of impossible stillness. And then the moon spoke. Personal audio log. Timestamp. Temporal markers corrupted. Recording begins with 37 seconds of distorted electronic noise before clearing. I don't know if this recording will maintain integrity. The experience defies documentation. When I regained consciousness, I was back in my quarters at the observatory. Marcus tells me I was found at the perimeter of the gathering, though I have no memory of leaving the interface point. 46 minutes passed according to facility timers, but it felt longer, much longer. The voice from the moon didn't use sound. It communicated directly into my consciousness, using my own memories and knowledge as a framework to convey concepts beyond human language. I can only approximate what was communicated. It identified itself as not an entity but a process, a mechanism established by what it called the architects approximately 1 billion years ago. The moon is not a natural satellite, but a monitoring station disguised as one, its exterior composed of gathered space debris to mask its true nature. Earth is one of countless seeded worlds throughout the galaxy. Each undergoes periodic assessment when indigenous life reaches certain technological thresholds. The stopping of the moon's rotation signals the final phase of our assessment cycle. Previous human civilizations have been reconfigured, after failing to meet developmental benchmarks. The process described was complete molecular disassembly of all complex life forms, followed by reassembly according to adjusted parameters. What we would call extinction, followed by guided evolution along a different path. 5 times before, humanity has been reset. 5 times we have failed to become what the architects intended. I asked why I was chosen as witness. The response was simultaneously flattering and horrifying. My genetic line contains the highest concentration of monitoring markers, deliberate genetic modifications introduced during previous reconfigurations. My ancestors were designed to be receivers, meant to facilitate communication when the assessment cycle completed. I am, in essence, an antenna shaped like a human being. Sound of emergency alert sirens in background. The facility's systems have regained partial functionality, but the news they deliver is catastrophic. While I was at the interface point, the collapse accelerated dramatically. The moon's orbital position has shifted. It's moving closer to Earth while maintaining its fixed orientation. The illuminated pattern constantly facing us, watching us. Massive tidal disruptions have begun worldwide. Coastal cities are already underwater. Millions displaced or gone. Sound of door opening. Hurried footsteps. Marcus just delivered the latest reports. Gravitational anomalies have intensified beyond theoretical limits. Objects in major urban centers are experiencing localized anti-gravitational effects. Buildings, vehicles, people suddenly weightless before being violently relocated as normal gravity returns. The laws of physics are being selectively suspended, and through it all, the countdown continues. 37 hours, 22 minutes, and 8 seconds remaining until reconfiguration. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 25, 2025. Researcher: Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject: Post-contact phenomena and revelation. The observatory's structure is compromising. Microtremors have become constant, and the main telescope housing has begun to separate from its foundation. Drive West estimates we have hours, not days, before the facility becomes uninhabitable. Major Collins has ordered evacuation protocols initiated, but where can we go? The gathering below has expanded to cover the entire valley floor. Tens of thousands of organisms standing in silent formation, pulsing with that eerie blue light. More disturbing, when I emerged from my quarters, every human in the facility stopped what they were doing and turned to face me simultaneously. For 17 seconds, they simply stared, their eyes reflecting the same blue luminescence seen in the gathering outside. Then, as one, they returned to their tasks as if nothing had happened. I am being watched through them. The process is using human eyes to observe me directly. When I confronted Drive West about this, he didn't seem surprised. The monitoring system has always used biological vectors, he explained. It's more efficient than mechanical surveillance. Your genetic markers make you visible to it, but the connection works both ways. You can perceive it too if you learn how. He's been expecting this, preparing for it. For how long? I wonder what else he knows that he hasn't shared. Shortly after noon, all functioning communication systems temporarily reactivated, broadcasting a single global emergency alert. Attention all citizens. Lunar event now classified as extinction level threat. All previous evacuation orders superseded. Remain where you are. Do not attempt travel. Military assets will not be deployed for civilian rescue. May God have mercy on our souls. The broadcast ended with what appeared to be a technical glitch. 30 seconds of visual static during which faint patterns emerged that matched the configurations on the lunar surface. Not a glitch, a message. The process is taking control of our communication networks. Marcus has been analyzing the data collected during my time at the interface point. The quantum entangled recorder failed, but it captured something before shutdown, energy readings unlike anything in our scientific databases. The pattern suggests the interface point is not just for communication. It's a transfer conduit, Marcus theorized. Two-way data exchange. Whatever spoke to you, Ellie, it wasn't just gathering information. It was giving something back. I didn't tell him about the strange knowledge now floating in my consciousness. Fragments of understanding about the universe that feel alien yet somehow familiar. Equations that explain physics beyond our current models. Glimpses of worlds seeded like ours, some thriving, others reconfigured, and underlying it all, a terrible certainty. This process is not malevolent. It's completely indifferent. We are an experiment, and our results are simply being measured against predetermined criteria. At 5:37 p.m., the most severe tremor yet struck the facility. The eastern wing collapsed entirely, claiming the lives of 11 personnel. Among the casualties was Dr. Reeves, the linguistics specialist. Her final words, reported by a technician who escaped, were, "The template has been imprinted. She carries it now." I know what she meant. Whatever data was exchanged at the interface point, it's inside me now. The genetic markers in my DNA have been activated, transformed into storage for something vast and incomprehensible. As night falls, the moon hangs impossibly large in the sky, its illuminated pattern casting enough light to read by despite the hour. The gathered mass below has begun a slow, synchronized movement, rotating counterclockwise around the interface point. The blue luminescence pulses faster now, almost frantic. Major Collins has ordered the Artemis system recalibrated to scan me directly. "If you're carrying data, we need to understand it," she insisted. But there was fear in her eyes. Not of me, but of what I might have become. I agreed to the scan, but I know what they'll find. I'm changing at the cellular level. The genetic markers are rewriting my DNA in real time. I can feel it. A burning sensation beneath my skin, a pressure behind my eyes. The Artemis scan is scheduled for 0800 tomorrow. I don't know if I'll still be myself. By then, countdown, 36 hours, 4 minutes, and 17 seconds. The collapse has begun, and I fear I'm part of the mechanism that will complete it. End of log entry. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: April 26, 2025. Researcher: Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject: Artemis scan results and lunar truth. Countdown: 28 hours, 37 minutes, and 12 seconds. The Artemis scan didn't happen as planned. I arrived at the medical wing at 0743 to find the technicians unconscious at their stations, slumped over consoles still displaying normal vital signs. They appeared to be sleeping, their faces peaceful despite the circumstances. When I attempted to wake them, my hands passed through their bodies as if they were holograms. Yet when Major Collins arrived minutes later, she interacted with them normally. She saw them alert and functioning, following her orders to prepare the equipment. She didn't see what I saw. "Reality's fracturing," Marcus whispered when I described the phenomenon. "Different perception layers for different observers." His hands trembled as he showed me readings from the auxiliary sensors. Quantum fluctuations throughout the facility had increased exponentially overnight. The physical laws governing our existence are becoming optional. The scan itself lasted 3 hours according to the system clock, though it felt like seconds to me. The Artemis data revealed something that should be impossible. My cellular structure now contains information density thousands of times beyond what biological matter should be capable of storing. My DNA has been restructured into something that defies classification, neither fully human nor wholly other. Drive West was waiting outside the scanner room, his expression unreadable. "The process chose well," he said. "Your capacity for integration exceeds projections." "What do you know about this?" I demanded. "Everything," he replied calmly, "and nothing at all. I'm like you, Dr. Harker, a receiver from a bloodline designed for observation. But while you were made to witness the final assessment, I was made to facilitate it." Before I could question him further, all power systems throughout the facility failed simultaneously. Emergency generators attempted to engage but immediately overloaded. In the darkness, I could see faint blue luminescence emanating from beneath Drive West's skin, the same glow that pulses through the gathered masses below. "It's time," he said. The revelation awaits. Personal audio log. Timestamp. Temporal anomalies prevent accurate recording. Location. Observatory substructure level B3. This recording is being made on an analog device I found in the abandoned seismology lab. With all digital systems compromised, it may be the only reliable means of documentation left. When power failed, West led me through maintenance corridors I hadn't known existed, descending deeper beneath the observatory than I'd realized was possible. The official schematics show only 2 sublevels, but we've gone past B7 according to the fading emergency signage. The original structure was built in 1947, West explained as we descended. Not as an observatory, but as a monitoring station for lunar activity. Those who constructed it understood what the moon truly was. A handful of scientists and military officials who had glimpsed the truth after unexplained lunar anomalies during atmospheric nuclear testing. The deepest level houses technology that shouldn't exist, certainly not from 1947. The chamber resembles a cathedral more than a laboratory, with towering structures of unknown metal arranged in configurations that mirror the patterns now visible on the lunar surface. At the center stands what West called the obelisk, a perfect black monolith that absorbs all light directed at it. "This is a receiver," West said, placing his palm against the obelisk's surface, built from instructions delivered to human minds over centuries. Those with the right genetic markers heard the blueprints in their dreams, compelled to construct this linkage point in preparation for the day the moon stopped. The obelisk responded to his touch, its surface rippling like liquid though remaining solid. Inside, something moved, shapes and patterns shifting in impossible dimensions. "The moon is not what we believed," West continued. "It was never a natural satellite. What you see in the sky is a shell, a constructed facade concealing the true structure beneath. The stopping of its rotation was not a malfunction but the completion of a countdown that began when it was first placed in orbit around Earth." "Placed? By whom?" I asked. "That's not the right question," West replied. "The better question is, for what purpose?" He guided me to a terminal near the obelisk, ancient technology retrofitted with modern components. As he activated it, the chamber's lighting shifted to match the blue luminescence of the gathering outside. On the screen appeared images from around the world, cities in chaos, oceans surging inland, strange geometric patterns forming spontaneously in rural areas, as people and animals gathered in formations like those below our facility. "The moon is a lens," West explained, "a focusing device aimed at Earth. For billions of years, it has been collecting and concentrating specific cosmic energies, storing them within its core structure. When rotation ceased, it signaled that the storage capacity had reached optimal levels. For what?" I demanded. "Transcendence," he whispered. "Or extinction. The distinction depends entirely on whether humanity passes the assessment." A technician I didn't recognize entered the chamber, moving with unnatural precision. She approached West and spoke in a voice that seemed to emerge not from her mouth but from the air around her. "All interface points are synchronized," she reported. "The consciousness integration network is at 93% completion." West nodded. "Prepare the primary receiver." With growing horror, I realized he meant me. "You've been lying to us?" I accused him. "You're not studying this phenomenon. You're facilitating it." "Not lying," West corrected. "Compartmentalizing. The truth would have prevented the necessary neural adaptations that allow you to serve as primary receiver. Your genetic lineage was curated across generations for this specific moment." The technician approached with what appeared to be a neural interface device. Major Collins entered the chamber behind her, accompanied by armed personnel. "Step away from Dr. Harker," Collins ordered, weapon raised. "This facility is under military jurisdiction." West seemed amused. "Your jurisdiction is irrelevant. The process has reached irreversible momentum." Collins fired, but the bullet stopped midair, hanging suspended between her and West before dissolving into blue luminescent particles that scattered like fireflies throughout the chamber. "The physical laws you rely upon are being rewritten," West explained calmly. What you perceive as reality is a construct, a simulation within parameters established by the architects to test evolutionary potential. Collins tried to respond but froze mid-motion, as did her personnel. Not unconscious, suspended, like insects in amber. They'll be released when necessary, West said. The assessment requires witnesses from multiple perspectives. Audio transcript, Lunar communication interface. Subject, direct lunar transmission via obelisk. Participants, Dr. Eleanor Harker, Dr. Victor West, unidentified entity. Recording begins with 12 seconds of harmonic tones at frequencies outside normal human hearing range, visualized as waveform patterns on monitoring equipment. West, the primary receiver, is prepared. Initial cognitive interface established. Unidentified, sound resembling multiple voices speaking in perfect synchronization. Assessment parameters confirmed. Subject species development, suboptimal. Intervention necessity, moderate to high. Reconfiguration probability, 82.7%. Harker, what does that mean? West, it means we're failing the test. Unidentified, previous reconfigurations, 5. Current iteration shows promise but fundamental flaws persist. Consciousness fragmentation exceeds acceptable parameters. Cooperation competition ratio inverted from optimal range. Harker, you've been resetting humanity 5 times before? Unidentified, reconfiguration preserves biological continuity while adjusting developmental trajectories. Your species has survived intact through each iteration. Only the path changes. West, show her the truth about the moon. Sound of energy fluctuations, followed by 7 seconds of silence. Harker, gasping, that's not possible. West, what do you see? Harker, the moon, it's hollow. No, not hollow. It's a machine. A massive machine with layers like a matryoshka doll. The outer shell is rock, but beneath, mechanisms, systems beyond our comprehension. And at its core, it's a doorway, portal to somewhere else. Unidentified, the focal point connects to the network. All seeded worlds maintain connection through such nodes. Harker, there are others? Other Earths? Unidentified, 7,824 currently active seeded worlds in this galaxy alone. For 12 have achieved optimal development patterns. 2,159 have required reconfiguration. 1,983 have failed despite multiple reconfigurations and been repurposed. Harker, repurposed how? West, quietly, you don't want to know. Unidentified, primary receiver neural adaptation is complete. Full integration possible. Prepare for complete revelation. Sound of mechanical movement and energy surge. Harker, screaming, then abrupt silence. Recording ends. Blackwood Peak Observatory research log. Date, temporal references unreliable. Researcher, Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject, post-integration understanding. Countdown, 19 hours 42 minutes and 8 seconds. I am changed. The integration connected my consciousness directly to what I can only describe as the lunar network. A vast database of knowledge accumulated across millions of years of observation. The experience nearly destroyed my mind, but the genetic modifications in my DNA activated fully during the process, allowing my neural pathways to reconfigure for higher information density. I understand now what the moon truly is and why it stopped. The entity we call the moon is a nexus point, one of thousands placed throughout the galaxy by beings that transcended physical form billions of years ago. The architects, as West calls them, evolved beyond individual consciousness into a collective intelligence that spans galaxies. They seed worlds with life, guide evolution, and periodically assess each world's development. The stopping of the moon's rotation activates the final phase of assessment. Its new fixed position creates a precise alignment with cosmic energy currents that allow direct observation from the architect collective. The patterns now visible on its surface are actually massive data processing arrays, analyzing every aspect of human development. Most terrifying of all, the assessment is nearly complete. The architects have determined that humanity has developed along a suboptimal path, prioritizing individual dominance over collective harmony, material consumption over sustainable growth, territorial conquest over expansion of consciousness. We are failing. Again, Major Collins was finally released from stasis. She listened in stunned silence as I explained what I'd learned. When I finished, she asked one question: "Can it be stopped?" "No," I answered truthfully, "but it can be influenced. The reconfiguration process requires a template, a core pattern from which the new iteration of humanity will develop. Traditionally, this template is selected by the architects based on optimal theoretical models. But there's a provision in the process. If the indigenous species demonstrates sufficient self-awareness and potential during assessment, they may provide their own template. That's my purpose as primary receiver. I'm to be the conduit through which humanity might offer an alternative to the architect's reconfiguration plan." Marcus found me in the substructure chamber hours later. He brought the latest readings from the observatory's remaining functional equipment. The moon has begun to transform visibly, sections of its surface shifting to reveal the technological structures beneath. Massive energy readings emanate from its core. "What's happening to it?" he asked. "It's becoming what it always was," I told him. "The disguise is no longer necessary." He showed me reports from global monitoring stations. The gatherings have formed at precise intervals across Earth's surface, 436 interface points where humans and other organisms stand in geometric formations, pulsing with blue light. Each gathering marks a node in what the architects call the Consciousness Integration Network, a system for collecting and analyzing the collective consciousness of Earth. "How much time do we have?" Marcus asked. I checked the countdown display on the obelisk. 19 hours, 3 minutes, and 47 seconds. "Less than a day," I replied, "before the reconfiguration begins." "And then what happens to us?" "To everyone." I couldn't bring myself to describe the process in detail: the complete molecular disassembly, the preservation of consciousness patterns while physical forms are reconfigured, the selective retention and deletion of memories and cultural knowledge. Instead, I simply said, "Everything changes. Drive West has granted me access to the obelisk's communication system. Through it, I can address the architects directly, present humanity's case for self-determination rather than imposed reconfiguration." But what could I possibly say that would sway beings who have guided evolution across thousands of worlds for billions of years? As I contemplate this impossible task, I've begun experiencing moments of discontinuity, brief periods where my consciousness seems to merge with others in the network. Through these connections, I glimpse fragments of lives across the planet. A mother sheltering her children in a flooded basement in Mumbai, a farmer watching his fields ripple with impossible gravity waves in Nebraska, a soldier abandoning her post to join a gathering in Seoul. All connected, all part of what's coming. And beneath it all, a pattern emerges. Not just of fear and confusion, but of something unexpected. Hope, curiosity, wonder. Even as the world collapses around them, humans continue to reach for understanding, for connection, for meaning. Perhaps therein lies our argument against reconfiguration. Not that we've succeeded, but that despite our failures, we persist in trying. The obelisk pulses with increasing intensity. The time for revelation is ending. Soon, a decision must be made. End of log entry. Blackwood Peak Observatory Research Log. Date: temporal discontinuity detected. Researcher: Dr. Eleanor Harker. Subject: network integration and reality collapse. Countdown: 9 hours, 18 minutes, and 32 seconds. Time has become elastic. I experience moments that stretch for what feel like hours, followed by hours that compress into seconds. My consciousness repeatedly fragments and reunites as the integration with the lunar network deepens. The human concept of selfhood is becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. Major Collins and her remaining team have established a defensive perimeter around the substructure chamber, though I've warned her it's futile. The laws of physics continue to destabilize as the countdown progresses. This morning, 3 of her soldiers simply vanished while on patrol. Their matter converted instantly into pure energy that dispersed throughout the facility as dancing motes of blue light. Most disturbing was Colin's reaction. Not shock or horror, but resigned acceptance. "It's happening everywhere," she explained, showing me fragmentary communications from military command. Reality fractures. People, buildings, entire city blocks phasing in and out of existence. The president was addressing the nation when half of his body simply dissolved. The broadcast cut off, but not before millions watched their leader come apart like sand in water. The global emergency alert system has been hijacked by the Lunar network. Every device capable of receiving signals, phones, radios, televisions, implants, now broadcasts a continuous tone that modulates in perfect sync with the pulsing light from the moon. Those who listen for more than a few minutes find themselves compelled to join the nearest gathering. Marcus theorizes that the tone is reconfiguring neural pathways, preparing human consciousness for the coming transformation. "It's not mind control exactly," he explained, "more like optimization, reducing resistance to what's coming." Drive West has been in continuous communion with the obelisk for the past 6 hours. His physical form has begun to lose coherence, skin occasionally becoming translucent, revealing not organs and bone but complex patterns of light organized into a rough approximation of human anatomy. Yet he continues to function, directing the final preparations with inhuman efficiency. Direct consciousness upload. Subject: collective network experience. Format conversion. Neural patterns to text. Fidelity loss unavoidable. The network expands through me. I am simultaneously in thousands of places, experiencing countless perspectives as the consciousness integration network approaches completion. I am a young woman in Sao Paulo watching her apartment building bend impossibly, folding like paper without breaking. Residents calmly walking on walls and ceilings as gravity reorients. An elderly man in Kyoto feeling his lifetime of memories reorganize, traumatic experiences dissolving into peaceful acceptance as the blue light flows beneath his skin. A child in Cairo pointing at the sky where the moon now occupies nearly a quarter of the visible horizon, its surface visibly shifting, mechanical structures the size of continents emerging from beneath the rocky facade. A pilot in mid-flight over the Pacific, watching in awe as the ocean below forms perfect geometric patterns, water rising in massive columnar structures that reach toward the transformed moon. The experiences blur together, individual identities becoming permeable. I feel their fear giving way to understanding as the network integration progresses. Humanity is becoming aware of its place in a much larger design, not as the culmination of evolution, but as one iteration in an ongoing experiment spanning billions of years across thousands of worlds. Colors exist that I have no words for. Dimensions unfold beyond the 3 we've known. Time branches and loops and intersects with itself. Through it all, I sense the attention of the architects, not as discrete entities but as a field of consciousness so vast that our entire species registers as a single complex thought within their collective awareness. They are curious about us. Despite our failed development, something about human consciousness intrigues them. Our capacity for both tremendous cruelty and profound compassion. Our ability to simultaneously believe contradictory things. Our art, our music, our stubborn persistence in the face of overwhelming evidence that we are not the masters of our fate. And now they wait for my argument, for humanity's plea to determine our own reconfiguration rather than accepting their template. Personal audio log. Timestamp. Chronometric systems fail. Location. Obelisk chamber. I've emerged from the network integration experience changed. The boundaries between myself and others have become theoretical rather than absolute. My memories now include fragments from thousands of human lives across continents and centuries. I understand languages I never studied and possess knowledge I never learned. Marcus found me floating 6 inches above the chamber floor, my body oriented vertically but perfectly still. He says I remained in that position for 27 hours, though it felt like moments to me. When I finally descended and opened my eyes, he backed away in fear. "Your eyes," he whispered. "They're different." In a reflective panel nearby, I saw what frightened him. My irises have transformed into intricate fractal patterns that constantly shift and reconfigure, glowing with the same blue luminescence that emanates from the gatherings. Not a cosmetic change, but a fundamental one. My visual processing now extends beyond the electromagnetic spectrum humans evolved to perceive. Major Collins entered the chamber with urgent news. The moon has begun to open. Massive sections of its surface are reconfiguring, revealing the technological megastructure beneath. Telescopes worldwide capture images of vast mechanical arrays extending outward from the lunar body, constructs that defy human engineering principles. "The public is panicking," she reported. "Religious groups are declaring it the apocalypse. Military forces are disintegrating as soldiers abandon their posts to join the gatherings." Her communication device activated spontaneously, broadcasting an emergency alert unlike the previous ones. "Emergency broadcast system. Global override. This is the final notification. The assessment cycle is complete. Reconfiguration protocols initiated. All humans, prepare for transition. Resistance is not possible. Acceptance is recommended but not required. Time remaining, 9 hours. Collins' device glitched after the message, the screen displaying rapidly shifting lunar patterns before exploding in a shower of components that rearranged themselves into a miniature replica of the obelisk before dissolving into blue particles. "We're out of time," I told her. "The fracture has begun." Drive West appeared suddenly beside us, though the door had remained closed. His form now only vaguely resembles a human, his outline blurring, internal structures visible as complex light patterns rather than biological systems. "The primary receiver must present humanity's case," he announced, his voice resonating from multiple points in the chamber simultaneously. "The template will be chosen soon." "What template?" Collins demanded. "What happens to us, to everyone?" "Molecular disassembly followed by reconstruction," West explained with clinical detachment. "Consciousness patterns preserved but reconfigured according to the selected template. A new iteration of humanity will emerge, physically similar but developmentally redirected toward optimal patterns." "That's extinction," Collins argued. "Murder on a global scale." "Transformation," West corrected. "Nothing is lost, merely reorganized for improved function." Outside the facility, the gathering has grown to encompass every living organism within visible range. Humans, animals, even plants pulsing with synchronized blue light. The interface point at its center has begun to emit vertical columns of energy that reach toward the transformed moon. Similar columns are visible across the horizon, marking other gatherings worldwide. 436 perfect beams of light connecting Earth to its ancient monitor. Within the chamber, the obelisk has begun to transform. Its perfectly smooth surface now displays the same patterns visible on the lunar surface, shifting and reconfiguring with increasing speed. At its base, a console has formed, an interface point specifically configured for human interaction. "It's time," West announced. "The primary receiver must connect and present humanity's argument for self-determination." I approached the console, my altered consciousness already sensing the immense awareness waiting beyond it, the collective intelligence of the architects reaching through the lunar network to witness our final plea. "What happens if they reject our template?" Marcus asked quietly. "Then they impose their own," West replied. "A reconfiguration designed to correct what they perceive as humanity's fundamental flaws. We would still exist, but as something different, something aligned with their cosmic purposes rather than our own chaotic evolution." I placed my hands on the console. The material beneath my fingers felt both solid and liquid, warm and impossibly ancient. Through it, I sensed the network expanding to encompass my consciousness completely. "Wait," Collins called. "What do you intend to show them?" "The truth," I answered. "All of it. Our cruelty and our kindness. our destruction and our creation, our hatred and our love. Everything we are, without concealment or justification. Will that be enough? She asked. Before I could answer, reality fractured completely. The chamber walls dissolved, revealing not the mountain surrounding us but infinite space, a direct perceptual link to the cosmos beyond. The obelisk expanded, its form encompassing the entire field of vision. Within its depths, countless patterns resolved into what I recognized as the attentive focus of the architects. My consciousness expanded to meet theirs. In that moment, I became the voice of humanity, the primary receiver transmitting our collective experience to beings who would decide our fate. The fracture was complete. Assessment had ended. Judgment had begun. End of log entry. Consciousness transmission log. Entity. Former Dr. Eleanor Harker. Temporal reference. Irrelevant/incompatible.
Dimensional coordinate. Transcription impossible.
Status. Post-reconfiguration. I remain. This statement itself contains profound meaning, though the concept of I has become more complex than human language can express. What was once Eleanor Harker exists as both an individual nexus of awareness and as an integrated node within the greater consciousness network. The distinction between self and other has become permeable, optional, a perspective rather than a boundary. The reconfiguration occurred precisely as the countdown reached zero. From humanity's perspective, it was instantaneous, 7.8 billion consciousnesses simultaneously experiencing molecular disassembly and reconstruction according to the template. From my perspective within the network, it unfolded across multiple temporal dimensions, a process of infinite complexity that somehow maintained continuity of experience. I observed it all. I was it all. The architects reviewed my presentation, humanity in its terrible, beautiful totality. They experienced our history through my consciousness. Our violence and our compassion, our destruction and our creation, our capacity for both cruelty and sacrifice. They witnessed our art, our music, our stories, the ways we've attempted to make meaning in a cosmos that offered none. They analyzed our social structures, our technologies, our relationship with our planet and with each other. Their judgment was not what I expected. Reconstructed memory fragment. Subject. The decision. Format. Dialogue approximation. Participants. Eleanor Harker interface. Architect collective. Note. True communication occurred through multidimensional concept transfer. This dialogue is a simplified reconstruction. Architects. The assessment pattern is consistent with previous iterations. Development suboptimal. Reconfiguration indicated. Eleanor, you've reconfigured humanity 5 times before. Each time we've developed along similar paths. Perhaps the flaw is not in us, but in your expectations. Architects. Explain. Eleanor, you value harmony, cooperation, sustainable growth. Yet you've designed a selection system based on competition, survival, and immediate adaptation. The traits you consider flaws are individualism, our tribalism, our short-term thinking, our survival mechanisms that evolved precisely because they worked in the environment you created. Architects. The selection system is neutral, a testing ground. Eleanor, no system is neutral. The parameters you established favor certain outcomes. If you truly wished for a different result, you would have designed a different test. Extended silence as concepts transfer across dimensional barriers. Architects, your species questions the experiment itself. This is unexpected. Eleanor, we are pattern seekers. We look for meaning even when there may be none. We question everything, including ourselves, including you. Architects, this trait has led to your repeated failure to achieve optimal development. Eleanor, or perhaps it suggests your definition of optimal is flawed. You value unity, we value diversity. You seek perfect order, we find strength in creative chaos. Our imperfection is our adaptation. Architects, the template you present embraces contradiction, paradox, inefficiency. Eleanor, yes, because that is what we are. Not a failed attempt at perfection, but something different entirely. something that may have value precisely because it develops in ways you didn't anticipate. Concept transfer intensifies to levels beyond linguistic representation. Architects, we will reconsider the parameters. Observation log, Earth monitoring station. Subject, post-reconfiguration survey. Cycle, 6th completion plus 72 hours. Earth continues to exist. This simple fact represents the most significant deviation from previous reconfiguration cycles. The decision of the architects was neither acceptance nor rejection of my proposed template, but something more nuanced. A reconfiguration that preserved our essential nature while healing the deepest wounds we had inflicted on ourselves and our world. Humanity remains human. We retain our individuality, our creativity, our capacity for both love and anger, joy and sorrow. Our bodies are largely unchanged, though subtle optimizations have occurred at the cellular level: reduced susceptibility to disease, improved neural efficiency, extended lifespan potential. The most profound changes are environmental and social. The damage we inflicted on Earth's ecosystems has been reversed. Oceans cleansed, atmosphere rebalanced, extinct species restored from genetic memory stored within the lunar database. Our cities remain but have been subtly transformed to operate in harmony with natural systems rather than in opposition to them. The consciousness network remains active but voluntary. Those who wish to connect may do so, experiencing the perspectives of others across the globe or communicating instantly across vast distances. Those who prefer solitude may disconnect entirely, their mental privacy absolute. Nation-states continue to exist, but warfare has become technologically impossible. The molecular patterns required for large-scale weapons simply fail to stabilize. This change was implemented at the fundamental physical level, not as a societal restriction but as a localized adjustment to the laws of physics themselves. Most significantly, humanity now has knowledge of our place in the cosmic experiment. We understand that we are one of thousands of seeded worlds, that we have been reconfigured 5 times before, and that we exist within parameters established by intelligences vastly beyond our own. This knowledge has not been imposed as an unquestionable truth, but offered as a verifiable reality that each person may investigate for themselves. The moon remains in its fixed position, its true nature now visible to all. A vast monitoring station and communication hub, linking Earth to the greater network of seeded worlds. Its surface features both the familiar cratered landscape of our history and the newly revealed technological structures, a reminder of both what we were and what we have become. Personal reflection. Origin, Eleanor Harker Consciousness Node. Access Public Network Archive. 3 months have passed since reconfiguration. I walk the streets of what was once Denver, now transformed into a city where technology and nature exist in perfect symbiosis. Trees grow through buildings designed to accommodate them, their leaves generating power for human needs. Water flows clean through restored watersheds that intertwine with human habitation. People recognize me not just as Eleanor Harker, but as the primary receiver who transmitted humanity's case to the architects. Some approach with gratitude, others with curiosity or even resentment. I am neither hero nor villain, but a symbol of the transition between what we were and what we have become. Marcus found me yesterday, sitting beside a pool where geometric patterns form spontaneously on the water's surface, a visible manifestation of the consciousness network's activity. He's adapted well to the new reality, using his scientific mind to explore the principles that now govern our existence. "Have you connected with the other worlds?" he asked. "The other seeded experiments?" I nodded. "Through the lunar network, I can now perceive fragments of life on hundreds of worlds, some recognizably similar to humanity, others utterly alien in form and thought. All part of the same vast experiment in conscious evolution. Are they watching us?" he wondered. "The architects?" "Always," I replied, "but not as masters or judges. More like interested colleagues now. We surprised them, Marcus. In all their billions of years seeding thousands of worlds, no species had ever questioned the experiment itself." "What happens next?" he asked. "Another assessment cycle? Another reconfiguration?" I smiled. That's the most remarkable change. There is no fixed cycle anymore. No predetermined assessment. We're writing our own template now, day by day. The experiment has become collaborative. Later, I visited Major Collins at the transformed observatory. The military structure has been repurposed as a communication hub for the Lunar network, and Collins serves as its director. The rigid military bearing she once maintained has softened, though her sense of duty remains. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked as we stood beneath the open dome, watching the transformed moon dominate the night sky, showing them everything we were, all our flaws, our violence, our failures.
No, Ian suarat.
If I had tried to present an idealized version of humanity, they would have imposed their template. It was our imperfection that saved us, our awareness of our flaws, our struggle to overcome them despite repeated failure. That's what made them reconsider the parameters. "And drive west?" she asked. I looked toward the moon, where west now exists as a direct interface between humanity and the architects, no longer fully human but not entirely other. He serves as he was designed to serve, but now he serves both sides of the equation. As night deepened, emergency alert sirens sounded across the city, not in warning but in celebration. Each evening at moonrise, the familiar tones play as a reminder of what we experienced and what we averted. Children too young to remember the original events dance to rhythms that once heralded the end of an evolutionary cycle. I joined them, my consciousness simultaneously present in my physical body and expanded throughout the network. Through the lunar connection, I sensed the attention of the architects, not as judgment but as genuine curiosity. For the first time in their vast existence, an experiment had yielded unexpected results. We remain human, flawed, contradictory, struggling, beautiful. We still fight, still love, still create and destroy. But now we do so with awareness of our place in a much larger design, with the knowledge that our imperfection might itself be a form of perfection unrecognized. The moon has stopped moving, but humanity continues to evolve, not towards some predetermined optimal state, but along a path we now help to define. The new reality is neither utopia nor dystopia, but something more complex, more challenging, and ultimately more human. The assessment cycle has ended. The collaboration has begun. End of final log.